There are uncertainties over the economic situation that await Nigerians and other residents in the West Africa country in 2025 after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented the sum of 49.7 trillion naira's 2025 budget appropriation bill before the joint session of the Senate and House of Representatives of the National Assembly, with a revenue target of 34.82 trillion naira's, hikes the dollar to naira exchange rate by 100%. From 750 nairas in 2024 to pegging amount of 1,500 nairas in 2025. It would be recalled that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his first budget presentation as Nigeria President on November 29, 2023, pegged 750 nairas to $1 as exchange rate for 2024. The president pegged the dollar rate at 750 nairas when the foreign currency was fluctuating between 856 nairas and 900 nairas as at last quarter of 2023. The 750 nairas dollar rate pegging for 2024 by the president saw the foreign currency currently exchanging between 1,656 nairas and 1,700 nairas, representing more than 100% negative increasement in the last quarter of 2024 when compared to the dollar rate as at December 2023. With the president pegging 2025 dollar rate at 1,500 nairas, there are possibilities that the dollar may trade between 2,856 nairas and 3,000 nairas before the end of the last quarter of 2025. In line with the previous year's economic and exchange rate behavioral patterns and realities in the country. This shows there may be more harder and tougher times in 2025 for larger numbers of residents, both the middle class and the poor in the country, as the federal government showed more wider vision and quest for more revenue in the year ahead. The 2025 budget shows that more than 30% of the 49.7 trillion naira will be used to service existing loans, with the government planning to borrow more new loans in 2025, sequel to the budget deficit of more than 13 trillion naira. According to local media, the passage of the 2025 appropriation bill for second reading within 24 hours by the lawmakers marks an important milestone in the budgeting process. The bill will undergo further scrutiny and debate before its final passage. As the Senate resumes its plenary session in January, lawmakers are expected to delve deeper into the budget and make necessary adjustments so that it aligns with the country's development priorities. Details of the 2025 budget presentation, as reported by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, reads in full below. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Wednesday in Abuja assured Nigerians of better days ahead as economic reforms begin to yield positive results, with noticeable signals in improved security, education, health care, and a globally acknowledged 3.4% GDP growth in third quarter of 2024. President Tinubu gave the assurance at the National Assembly during European Commission (EC) President von der Leyen on Tuesday visited Turkey President Recep Erdogan and discussed additional €1 billion for the settlement of Syria refugees in Turkey days after Israeli forces patrolled inside a recently seized demilitarized zone along the border with Syria, as Tel Aviv announced plans to double the number of Israelis living in the part of the Golan Heights Israel captured from Syria in 1967, with reports of hostilities between US-backed Kurdish group and Turkey-backed Islamist group in recent days in Kurdish towns, which United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, said on Tuesday there have been conflicts in Syria in last 2 weeks, and the conflicts among the rebels, if left uncontrolled, may be catastrophic. European Commission, in a news release on Tuesday, reported that the Commission President visited Turkey and discussed additional €1 billion for 2024 to support Turkey's efforts to host Syria refugees. The news release reads in details thus: "Thank you, President Erdogan, for your warm welcome to Ankara today. Let me start with our discussion on Syria. The collapse of the Assad regime offers new hope to the Syrian people, but it equally comes with risks. The situation on the ground remains extremely volatile, so we are closely monitoring the developments. The Syrian people deserve a peaceful transition. one that preserves their country's territorial integrity and sovereignty, one that upholds state institutions, and one that reflects the aspirations of the Syrian people in all their diversity. So, it means that national unity must be respected, and minorities must be protected. This is aligned with the principles agreed by the foreign ministers meeting in Aqaba. Europe is ready to do its part to support Syria at this critical juncture. Allow me to mention some points where the European Union will be active right away. Our top diplomat returns to Damascus. We already have a European presence in Damascus through our humanitarian teams. Indeed, we have always maintained our presence in Syria to support those in need while respecting the principles of no contact, no cooperation, no funding to the Assad regime. But now we have to step up and continue our direct engagement with HTS and other factions. We will enhance our engagement in early recovery, including basic services, like electricity and water, and infrastructure. We have increased our humanitarian aid to more than 160 million euros for this year alone. And we have launched a humanitarian air bridge, and the first goods are expected to arrive this week. Europe is already Syria's biggest donor. Since 2011, our annual Syria conferences have mobilized over 33 billion euros. We must continue this support, with a new focus on reconstruction. This will be a step-by-step approach. And we would need to start a discussion on sanctions relief. But this can only happen if real progress on a peaceful transition is seen on the ground. Indeed, the fall of the Assad regime, men of the Nigeria police force have raided series of criminal hideouts across the country, arrested 128 suspects after the police operatives had earlier arrested armed robbers in Anambra State and recovered over 129 billion naira counterfeit currencies from suspected criminals in Kano State ahead of the 2024-2025 Christmas and New Year celebrations in the country. Details of the news reports are presented verbatim as reported by the Force Public Relations Officer, Olumiwa Adejobi below. As the festive season approaches, the Nigeria Police Force remains vigilant and proactive, ramping up its efforts to ensure the safety and security of all citizens. In a series of proactive measures, the force has intensified its operations, leading to numerous successful raids, arrests and recoveries. In line with the directive of the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun to in place efficient security measures against crime during this festive season, operatives of the Nigeria Police Force in several state commands across the country have carried out intensive patrols and raids, successfully dislodging and arresting scores of hoodlums and recovering dangerous weapons. Operatives of the Lagos State Police Command on the 14th of December 2024 carried out several raids of criminal hideouts in the Isolo axis of the state, successfully apprehending 43 suspects, and recovering various exhibits including large quantities of cannabis, daggers, swords and several fetish items. In the same vein, on the 15th of December 2024, police operatives of the Lagos State Command arrested one Charles Orji, male, at Isheri Osun, Lagos State, who tried to steal a Toyota Hilux from where it was parked. Upon his arrest and a subsequent search, 7 different Toyota car keys were recovered from him. Operatives of the Nigeria Police Force continue to demonstrate unwavering commitment to safeguarding lives and property by diligently increasing vigilance and executing coordinated security measures in various regions across the country. This concerted effort is notably observed in states like Kaduna, Zamfara, Taraba, Edo, Delta, Benue, and Niger, among other critical areas. As we enter the final stretch of the festivities, the Nigeria Police Force assures citizens that it will continue its mission to deter crime and protect the lives and property of all Nigerians. The force remains unwavering in this mission to provide a safe environment during the holiday season, as members of the public are urged to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activities to the authorities. As we approach the Yuletide festivities, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun, has assured the good citizens of Nigeria of the emplacement of intensive security measures to ensure the safety and protection of lives and property. To this effect, the IGP has directed the immediate deployment of adequate personnel to strategic locations, key areas and identified hotspots across all states, an initiative aimed at curbing traffic, highway robberies. Ousted President of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, has issued a first press statement since he fled to Moscow, the Russian capital, after the fall of Damascus, saying he never abandoned his fighters, that the opposition rebels closed in on him while he was inside Russian military base in Syria, and the leadership of Russian military ordered his evacuation as the Moscow army base came under heavy drones attack. According to Bashar al-Assad, he did not leave Syria on Sunday morning, that he was hiding in the Russian military base till evening when he was eventually evacuated. The deposed Syrian president has defended his role and denied planning his departure as armed opposition fighters closed in on Damascus earlier this month. A statement said to be written by al-Assad and released on the Syrian presidency's Telegram channel on Monday presented an account of how and why the former president fled Syria. First, my departure from Syria was neither planned nor did it occur during the final hours of the battles, as some have claimed. On the contrary, I remained in Damascus, carrying out my duties until the early hours of Sunday, December 8, 2024. The statement added that as rebel fighters, who al-Assad described as terrorist forces, entered the capital, he moved to a Russian base on the coastal city of Latakia to oversee combat operations. Adding, the Russian military base came under drone attacks from armed opposition fighters. With no viable means of leaving the base, Moscow requested that the base's command arrange an immediate evacuation to Russia on the evening of Sunday, the 8th of December. This took place a day after the fall of Damascus, following the collapse of the final military positions and the resulting paralysis of all remaining state institutions. We are yet to independently verify the statement posted on the Syrian President Verified Telegram channel's account. Al-Assad has not made any media appearances since he was granted asylum with his family by President Vladimir Putin-led Russia. Groups led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, had launched a lightning offensive from the northwestern province of Idlib in November, taking city after city from government forces with little resistance. Reuters reported that the vault of Syria's central bank holds nearly 26 tons of gold, the same amount it had at the start of its bloody civil war in 2011. Even after the chaotic fall of Bashar al-Assad's despotic regime, the media cited 4 people familiar with the situation. But the country has only a small amount of foreign currency reserves in cash, the same people said. Syria's gold reserves stood at 25.8 tons in June 2011, according to the World Gold Council, which cites the Central Bank of Syria as its data source. That is worth $2.2 billion at current market prices, according to Reuters calculations, Reuters reported on Monday. Last Monday, rescuers from the Syrian White Helmets said they were searching for secret doors or basements in Sadnaya prison, looking for any detainees whom Ambrose Owuru, Hope Democratic Party, HDP presidential candidate in the previous general elections in Nigeria, a legal practitioner who was in 2013 arrested and prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over 66 million naira land scam, has been fined 5 million naira by the Nigeria Apex Court, the Supreme Court of Justice, for filing frivolous charges against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, seeking the West Africa country president's removal from office. EFCC had on July 31, 2013 arrested barrister Ambrose Owuru over an allegation of obtaining the sum of 66 million naira from one Ikechukwu Eze under false pretense. The complainant alleged that sometimes in March 2011, he paid the sum of 60 million naira through Sky Bank, Olu Obasanjo Road Branch, Port Harcourt, to Barrister Owuru for a property located at Anzaniru Street, Amadi Flat, Port Harcourt. In the process of taking possession of the property, it was discovered that a portion had been sold to another person. At this point, Barrister Owuru allegedly asked for another 6 million naira to settle the other buyer, one Chief Austin Omaya, which Eze allegedly obliged him. Since then, every attempt to take possession or develop the said property met with resistance. Upon receipt of the petition and commencement of investigation, the commission invited the suspect severally, but he refused to honor the invitations, which culminated in his arrest, EFCC stated in its press release issued first week of August 2013. Also in August 2013, EFCC issued another press release, stating that a federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt has granted the former presidential candidate of the Hope Democratic Party, Chief Ambrose Owuru, bail in the sum of 10 million naira, and one surety who must be a lawyer of 30 years post-call experience. Justice Suleiman Aliyu also ordered that the surety must swear an affidavit of means while the accused undertake to be present in court throughout his trial. Owuru was arraigned on August 2, 2013 by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on a 5-count charge that borders on uttering, forgery and obtaining money by false pretense. He allegedly obtained the sum of 66 million naira from one Ikechukwu Eze through a phony land deal. One of the counts read, that you, Ambrose Owuru, on or about the 7th day of March 2011 at Port Harcourt, Rivers State, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, with intent to defraud, did obtain the sum of 60 million naira from Ikechukwu Eze on the pretense that you have sold to him 4 plots of land situated at plot 44A, Amadi Layout, Port Harcourt, a pretext which you knew to be false, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 1(1)(a) of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act, 2006, and punishable under Section 1(3) of the same Act. Another count reads, that you, Ambrose Owuru, on or about the 7th day of March 2011 at Port Harcourt, Rivers State, within the Nigeria President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has called on all members of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to emulate the last Ghana presidential elections, with some Nigerians also calling on the president to ensure he allows the country electoral body, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to be free from being forced to corrupt the upcoming Nigeria 2027 presidential election. The ECOWAS bloc also gave its member countries, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, currently under military rule, a window of exit from the ECOWAS bloc in line with the request of the 3 countries which have been on a loggerhead with other member countries of the West Africa Community since coup after coup in the region. The approval came after some days President Bola Tinubu told German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier that ECOWAS would handle the 3 countries' return to the group with wisdom. The approval of the country's exit was made public on Sunday by ECOWAS Commission President Dr. Omar Al-Toure at the end of the 66th Ordinary Summit of the Authority of Heads of State and Government and ECOWAS Commission. Toure said the 3 countries will formally cease to be members of ECOWAS on January 29, 2025, in accordance with Article 91 of the revised ECOWAS Treaty. Following their notifications to withdraw, the regional bloc outlined a transitional period from January 29 to July 29, 2025, keeping its doors open for the countries to reconsider their decision. Acknowledging the diplomatic efforts led by Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, Togo's President, Foreign Assembly, and ECOWAS Chairman Bola Tinubu, the bloc emphasized its commitment to fostering dialogue. Toure said the authority had extended the mandates of Nassingbe and failed to continue mediation efforts throughout the transition period. He said ECOWAS, during the transitional phase, would focus on preparing for the separation. ECOWAS also tasked its Commission President with initiating withdrawal formalities after January 29, 2025, and developing a contingency plan to address political and economic relations with the departing nations. Additionally, the ECOWAS Council of Ministers would convene an extraordinary session in mid-2025 to finalize separation modalities and the contingency plan. Touré stated, "The part of the communiqué I'll be reading relates to the decision of the Republic of Mali, the Republic of Niger and Burkina Faso to withdraw from ECOWAS. After deliberations, Their Excellencies, members of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, commend the exemplary diplomatic engagement of His Excellency, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, President of the Republic of Senegal, and His Excellency Faure Gnassingbe, President of the Togo Republic, and the diplomatic efforts of the Chairman of Authority, His Excellency, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and other individual member states towards these three countries." The authority takes note of the notification by Burkina Faso, Republic of Mali and the Republic of Niger of their decision to withdraw from ECOWAS. The authority acknowledges that in South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol has vowed to overturn his impeachment votes passed by lawmakers on Saturday evening, according to the Asia country local time, a parliamentary decision which suspended him from performing his duties as the country president, but he will remain in office as the nation's president until the Constitutional Court made of 6 judges, 4 of whom were appointed by Yoon, decide if the impeachment is lawfully acceptable or not. Yoon Suk-yeol was suspended from presidential duties at South Korea local time at 7:24 p.m. Saturday, according to local media. The impeachment case will proceed to the Constitutional Court for review, and according to local observers, there is still uncertainty regarding the result at the Constitutional Court, saying, there are currently only 6 judges, 4 of whom were appointed by Yoon. South Korean lawmakers voted on Saturday after last Saturday insufficient votes to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol following a short-lived declaration of martial law last week Tuesday night. Yoon presidential powers are expectedly according to the law will be formally suspended once he is served with a copy of the impeachment resolution. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, appointed by Yoon in 2022, will take over as acting president while the country's constitutional court takes up the matter. Shortly after the parliamentary votes, Yoon in a nationwide address, repeated his intention to fight the impeachment in the Constitutional Court, which will now decide whether to reinstate or formally remove him, a process that could take up to 6 months. "I will never give up," he said in a televised address shortly after the vote. Reports and videos posted online showed inside the National Assembly with a loud cheers and gasps from lawmakers when the Speaker announced that the votes in favor of impeachment had crossed the 200 needed to pass. The result indicated that 12 lawmakers from Yoon's party joined the opposition to impeach him. Earlier reports showed protests in full swing outside the National Assembly with thousands kept coming but orderly carrying placards, and floor cushions were distributed with markings on the floor for where to sit. People streaming out of subway stations here and nearby. "It feels like today's protest is their duty," one of the South Korean residents in Seoul stated in a tweet on X social media. The thousands of protesters gathered outside the assembly in frigid weather jumped up and down, and hugged or shook hands with some playing drums in celebration of the favored impeachment votes were announced. Outside the National Assembly, loud cheers washed over a large crowd of pro-impeachment protesters, some of whom had set up free coffee and food stalls for fellow participants. According to local observers, the Constitutional Court would have 180 days to rule on Yoon's future. If it backs his removal, Yoon would become the second president in South Korean history to be successfully impeached. A dozen members of Yoon's Conservative People Power Party joined opposition lawmakers to pass the threshold of 200 votes, which was 2/3 of the legislators required for his impeachment. The final Kyiv on Saturday in Paris hints United States of America, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump that Ukraine needed just and enduring peace, that Russians under the leadership of President Vladimir Putin can't destroy in few years, with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also stating how Russia is trying to subjugate Georgia after many wars against the country. Zelensky stated this in a statement issued last Sunday, giving out brief report of the outcome from the meeting he had with the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, French President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace during the Notre Dame Cathedral's reopening ceremony of the church building that caught fire in 2019. Yesterday, I visited President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace and had a good meeting with President Donald Trump. We discussed important issues on the battlefield and in the global situation, from our front lines to North Korea. I stated that we need a just and enduring peace, one that the Russians will not be able to destroy in a few years, as they have done repeatedly in the past. This is clear not only for our country and region. We see how Russia is now trying to subjugate Georgia after several wars against that country. Russia still does not want to ease its grip on Moldova. Now the Russians are retreating from Syria, but that does not mean they will not try to sow death there again. Russian military presence is also active in Africa, with the sole purpose of destabilization. Therefore, when we talk about effective peace with Russia, we must first and foremost talk about effective guarantees for peace. Ukrainians want peace more than anyone else. Russia brought war to our land, and it is Russia that most seeks to disrupt the possibility of peace. Updated data on Russian losses show over 750,000 casualties, including 198,000 killed and more than 550,000 wounded. Our people are defending their homes at the cost of their lives, and every life of our soldiers and our civilians is precious to us. Since the start of the full-scale war, Ukraine has lost 43,000 soldiers killed in action on the battlefield. There have been 370,000 cases of medical assistance for the wounded. It also needs to be mentioned that in our army approximately half of the soldiers wounded in action are later returning to the battlefield, and that our data also includes light or repeat injuries. One of the key distinctions between the Russian army and Ukraine's defense forces is the level of frontline medicine, which is significantly higher in our forces. We are deeply grateful to everyone who supports its development, saves our wounded in action, and facilitates their rehabilitation. Since September this year, Russia has been losing troops on the battlefield at a ratio of 5:1, or even 6:1, compared to us. They want to seize more land before global pressure on them becomes unbearable. Additionally, we must not forget our people in Russian captivity. United States of America, USA President-elect Donald Trump says his nominee for the job of Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Director Kash Patel, is the most qualified person to lead the agency in its history, saying, Kash Patel will restore law and order allegedly lost under the leadership of Christopher Wray, who promised to resign as FBI Director at the end of President Joe Biden's tenure. Donald Trump stated this on Thursday across his social media handles in reaction to the promised resignation of Christopher Wray on Wednesday at a town hall meeting with FBI employees. Reuters had reported that Wray's resignation makes him the second straight FBI director driven out by Trump, who during his first term in office fired Wray's predecessor, James Comey, after souring on him over the FBI's investigations into alleged contacts between Trump's 2016 campaign and Russia. That sparked one of two federal prosecutions Trump faced while out of power, neither of which went to trial. Trump denied wrongdoing and described all the cases against him as politically motivated. Federal prosecutors ended their efforts after his election, citing long-standing Justice Department policy not to prosecute a sitting president. FBI directors are appointed for 10-year terms, a measure meant to avoid the appearance of partisanship after political turnover in the White House every 4 years. Wray's term was not due to expire until 2027. Throughout his term, Wray said that he strove to impartially carry out the FBI's duties. During a 2023 hearing before a House of Representatives panel, he rebuffed the idea that he was pursuing a Democratic partisan agenda, noting that he had been a lifelong Republican. The idea that I am biased against conservatives seems somewhat insane to me, given my own personal background, Ray said. Reuters International News Agency report ends in quote. Ray's decision to resign came 2 days after a key Senate Republican called for his departure and following a steady drumbeat of support for President-elect Donald Trump's replacement, Kash Patel, according to multiple media outlets. Trump appointed Ray in 2017 during his first term, but he became a constant target of criticism because of investigations on the former president, now president-elect, over Russian interference in the 2016 election and classified documents recovered in an FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. Ray told FBI employees in a town hall meeting that, "In my view, this is the best way to avoid dragging the bureau deeper into the fray, while reinforcing the values and principles that are so important to how we do our work." Local observers said that Trump and his hardline allies turned on Ray, and the FBI more generally, after agents conducted a court-approved search of Trump's Florida resort in 2022 to recover classified documents he had retained after leaving office. Trump described the resignation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Director Christopher Wray as a "great day for America." South Korea Defense Minister Kim Jong-un, who is believed to have recommended hours-long martial law that turned the Asia country into political turmoil since last week Tuesday, have been arrested on Sunday after he had resigned last Wednesday, and others believed to be involved in the martial law decision have been placed on travel ban with the ruling People Power Party (PPP), saying the president, Yoon Suk-yeol, would no longer be able to travel or participate in foreign and domestic affairs until he resigned. Bae Sang-up, a Justice Ministry official, had told a parliamentary hearing that the South Korea Justice Ministry has banned President Yoon from leaving the country following requests by police, prosecutors and an anti-corruption agency as they expand their investigations into the circumstances surrounding Yoon's power grab. AP International News Agency reported that, while a sitting South Korean president has immunity from prosecution while in office, that doesn't extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. This means that Yoon can be questioned and detained by police over his martial law decree, but many observers doubt that police will forcefully detain him because of the potential for clashes with his presidential security service. They also say the security service won't likely permit searches of Yoon's office, citing a law that prohibits searches on sites with state secrets without approval from those in charge of those areas. In the case of former President Park Geun-hye, who was thrown out of office in 2017 after being impeached by parliament over a corruption scandal, prosecutors failed to search her office and ended up receiving documents outside the compound because presidential officials turned them away. After refusing to meet with prosecutors while in office, Park underwent questioning by them and was arrested after the Constitutional Court approved her impeachment and ruled to dismiss her as president in March 2017. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that South Korea's main opposition party said on Tuesday it would pass a government budget bill for 2025 that triggered President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law decree last week, at a plenary session scheduled to be held later in the day. The opposition-controlled parliament last month cut 4.1 trillion won from the government's proposed 677.4 trillion won, $473 billion budget. "We will pass the budget bill today," Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung said. A swift passage of the bill will help resolve the current uneasiness and crisis. The government says the budget cut will paralyze basic government functions, hinder responses to external challenges and delay policy measures for small businesses and the vulnerable. President Yoon cited opposition obstructionism over government budgets as one justification for his martial law decree on December 3, which triggered a constitutional crisis in Asia's fourth-largest economy. Senior Democratic Party lawmaker, Park Chan-dee said if the government needed money for spending for people's livelihoods, it can be solved later through an extra budget. Although Yoon narrowly avoided impeachment during a parliamentary vote on Saturday, United States of America, US-backed Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF and Turkey-backed Islam-led Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS have pushed out Iran and Russia-backed President Bashar al-Assad from Syria, with US President-elect Donald Trump calling President Joe Biden and other government officials at the White House warmongers trying to cause World War III, distancing USA from the civil crisis in Damascus. Local media reported with videos that Christians in Damascus gathered at a church Saturday night to pray for guidance as the opposition Islamic and Kurdish rebels closed in on Damascus. Some of the local media added that the fall of Damascus could mark the end of a 2,000-year-old Christian presence in the city. On Sunday early morning, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad boarded a plane and left Damascus for an unknown destination, two senior army officers told Reuters, as rebels said they had entered the capital with no sign of army deployments. Syria's army command also notified officers that President Bashar al-Assad's rule ended following a lightning rebel offensive. A Syrian officer who was informed of the move stated, according to Reuters, with Syrian rebels saying, Damascus is now free of Assad. According to unverified information, the plane that might have been carrying Assad out of Damascus had gone into sharp descent and disappeared from the radars. There has been no official information, but a check showed that as at on Sunday early morning, a Syrian airplane took off from Damascus airport around the time the capital was reported to have been taken by rebels, according to data from the Flight Radar website. The aircraft initially flew towards Syria's coastal region, a stronghold of Assad's Alawite sect, but then made an abrupt U-turn and flew in the opposite direction for a few minutes before disappearing off the map. Iran had earlier started to evacuate military commanders from Syria, in a sign that the regime is losing faith in Bashar al-Assad's ability to hold back a rebel uprising which started newly on November 27, 2024, advancing fastest unlike since the civil war in Syria began in 2011. Tehran has sent commanders and staff back to neighboring Lebanon and Iraq, the New York Times reported, citing 3 Iranian officials and regional officials. The renewed fighting in Syria had brought into focus the role of foreign powers in the country. Turkey, Iran, Russia and the US have all deployed troops in Syria since 2011, while Israel mounts frequent airstrikes in Syrian territory. The surprise rebel offensive advanced so quickly that its troops were, as of Saturday, within 12 miles 20 kilometers of the southern gate of Damascus, Hassan Abdul Ghani, the rebel commander, said. Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs in a statement on Saturday, said, over the past 24 hours, armed forces have entered the buffer zone on the Syrian side of the border with Israel. Among other actions, attacks were carried out against United Nations Disengagement Force. Lawmakers in South Korea on Saturday failed to carry out their planned impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who earlier in the week declared few-hours-long martial law which was condemned and resisted by both the president's ruling political party, People Power Party, PPP, and the opposition Democratic Party, DP. But today, the PPP boycotted the impeachment process, with the party leader saying the president would resign. The impeachment process failed as many lawmakers refused to vote and the parliament could not gather enough votes required to impeach a president in South Korea. After the impeachment failed, the president's political party, PPP, said that it could not allow a repeat of the 2016 impeachment of the then-president Park Geun-hye, who left office after months of candle-lit protests over an influence peddling scandal. Her downfall triggered the implosion of the party and a victory by liberals in presidential and general elections, according to Reuters. We cannot repeat the tragedy of paralysis of state affairs and suspension of constitutional government through the impeachment of the president, PPP spokesperson, Shildon UK said. adding that Yoon had apologized and had vowed to leave his future up to the party. Thousands of demonstrators holding candles and lights flooded the streets outside Parliament on Friday and Saturday nights, demanding Yoon's impeachment. At least 8 votes were needed from Yoon's PPP to reach the 2/3 majority needed to impeach the president. But PPP lawmakers departed after casting votes on a separate motion, even when some people shouted and cursed them. Only 3 lawmakers from Yoon's party voted in the impeachment process, according to Reuters. President Yoon had earlier on Saturday morning addressed the nation in a televised speech to apologize for the move, and said he would face whatever repercussions there would be, but he did not offer to resign. Yoon said he would put his fate in the hands of the PPP. I caused anxiety and inconvenience to the public. I sincerely apologize. I will leave it up to our party to stabilize the political situation in the future, including my term of office, Yoon said in a televised address. After the failed impeachment vote, PPP leader Han Dong-hoon said the party had decided that Yoon would resign. The declaration of martial law was a clear and serious violation of the law, Han told reporters. Reuters reported that Han has a history of clashes with Yoon, but it was unclear if he was speaking for all PPP members. There was no word yet from Yoon on Han's comments. The People Power Party will pursue an orderly departure of the president in order to minimize confusion for the people, Han said, adding that until Yoon leaves, he would be effectively excluded from his duties, and the Prime Minister will consult with the party to manage state affairs, Han said. National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik appealed for the PPP lawmakers to return to their seats during the impeachment voting process but to no avail. The opposition needed at least 8 votes from the PPP but only 3.
Osazuwa Radio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.